All right, Governor, we finally get to sit down again. Last time it was, well, it was on my show, but really when we face-to-face was on TV1.
That's correct.
We came to the set and got a chance to chat. So had to come to your stomping ground. So first of all, where are we? Are we on the campus of?
This is the Wilder School of Government at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia.
Gotcha. So you run the whole school?
No, the dean runs the school. I'm a distinguished professor at the school, and the school was named for me, and I'm honored for it. So it's good because we have students from everywhere, and particularly those who need to know a little bit about people of color, historically and otherwise. And I've been affiliated here for some 30 plus years, and I get so many nice letters from them later on after they've gone and achieved. And the numbers of students, it's amazing. I have whites and black and Asian and others, but they've gone on to such heights, many of them heading big companies, big corporation board members, etc. And so this university was founded as an urban university.
Mm-hmm.
And it was founded to be in a position to recruit and to bring that degree of professorship and those kinds of things here. Unfortunately, some of that goes by the by. And my role here is to make certain that we don't go back.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, we've had 150% turnover in black faculty.
Wow.
In the last year or so.
Wow.
The dean has brought that to, and our dean is a black woman. Fantastic dean. Our school now is ranked in the low 30s in the nation
Mm-hmm.
of government and public affairs. We're number one in the state, so I'm very pleased to be here.
So clearly the student keeping you young. So I had a professor at Texas A&M, Douglas Starr, and Dr. Starr, I graduated and came back, and he was still teaching at 90. And he said, Roland, he said, if you get older, you gotta be around young people. They will
Oh,
keep
yes.
they will keep you young. And you turn 91 in January.
That's correct. And they will keep you young, and they demand to know. And it's so good, Roland. I get letters from people, and as I say, from all over, many of them. I got a letter yesterday, a lady said she volunteered in my campaign when I ran for governor, and how pleased she is with it. And I told her, yes. I said I had more volunteers, but I couldn't pay them. But it's a very good feeling, particularly now, and relating to you, and you and I go back 100 years too. But to see the progress you've made, and yet the unfortunate thing is, the problems are the same.
Right.
They have not changed.
Right.
The addressing of the problems needs to change. We need to, as we said, take our cudgel and cut away that morass of indifference that's out there to make certain that we demand of all citizens to participate in government. And those words of Lincoln have always stayed with me: government of, for, and by the people. And unfortunately, our government, at state as well as at local levels, has gotten away from the people.
Right.
And you and I need to make certain that that doesn't continue.
See, I think part of that is, and I was having this conversation with someone the other day on my show. I talked about connecting the dots.
Yes.
And I said, and they asked me, and they said, well, why are you so intense about this? I said, well, because my parents founded the Civic Club in our neighborhood. They never went to college, high school diplomas, but they understood the value of neighborhoods. And I said, so for me at 9 and 10 and 11, I testified before the city council. My mom was one of the 3 co-chairs of the countywide metropolitan organization, multi-faith group. So I remember being on the bus traveling to the state capitol for rallies. So I saw government from the perspective of the people, right, letting their voices be heard. And so what I'm constantly explaining to you're an Omega, I'm an Alpha, I said, if the school board, the city council, county board, state legislature, if a group of black men in purple and gold are walking up, and a group in black and gold walking up, I said, and they don't know who's coming, I said, that's actually our fault.
Correct.
And I think that's where we are. We're not, all of this a mass of organizations, we're not taking that and marshalling it and going to those places and saying, y'all gonna do this, or we gonna show up in mass and vote you out.
Well, and to demand what is right and to criticize what is wrong and not be concerned with the consequences.
Right. And
luckily, I was raised in a home like that. I tell people now, I never had to go out of my home to find my heroes. They were there. My mother believed in the highest level of education. My father was the youngest in his family. And now we're celebrating Juneteenth. And when he would tell me, my father telling me about how his father was sold and his mother was separated and with 3 children, and my grandfather had to walk 35 miles each weekend to connect with his family. To come back and you get whipped for running away. It's so bad that the overseer said, look, I know you're not. I know you've not run away. I'm going to whip this saddle. And you just have to cry and act like I'm whipping you. Because
wow.
Now, this is what Juneteenth means to me.
Right.
It's
right.
real. And I don't need to march and celebrate. I need to concentrate and to consecrate the spirit of our people who were there with nothing.
Right.
And yet, my father and his brother went on to graduate from medical school, whose parents were slaves. And so don't tell me that you came up from slavery. You can up from any of the degradations that have been visited upon us by mankind, because we are equal to the extent of birth. We were all born equal. We were born free. We were born free of mind and free of spirit. But we can't allow that now to be pimped. And you and I know exactly what I mean by that. There are too many pimps out here hustling race
Mm-hmm.
and not meaning the people to the extent of betterment, the good that can be coming.
It's interesting you brought up Juneteenth because I'm born and raised in Houston.
Yeah.
So it's been a state holiday since 1980. And when they made it a federal holiday in 2021, there were a number of African Americans on social media, other places, who were condemning, we didn't ask for this, and they were deriding it. And I said, whoa, I need y'all to back the hell up. I said, first of all, y'all don't know how we've been celebrating and commemorating at the same time. I said, this was self-reliance. This was Black empowerment. I said, we were advancing Black economics. There were voter registration campaigns. I said, there were panels and workshops. I said, it wasn't all barbecues and concerts. And folks are being dismissive about it. And I said, what y'all are failing to remember is that there is nothing else in America that annually where they have to confront slavery. I said, so now it being a federal holiday, I said, newspapers, radio stations, television networks cannot ignore. So you literally cannot talk about Juneteenth and not talk about slavery.
No, you can't.
And talk about not only what happened, but the after effects of it as well. I said, so use the opportunity to advance that agenda and now put it within the right framework and not just act like, oh, this is opportunity to sell mattresses.
I couldn't agree with you more. And yet, when you look to see where our schools are at the K through 12 levels, the dropouts that we are having, the amount of money that is wasted in education, the amount of positions, and I'm speaking about government at the local level, is the most important government to people. Who the president is one thing.
Right.
Or who is the mayor of that city?
That's right.
Who is the superintendent of your
school?
Who
is the school board chief, board president,
and are they
county leader? Yeah.
One of the worst things, Roland, that I hear on so many occasions, and I hate it, that people say, well, you know, a good place for you to start if you want to run and get involved in government and politics, you should run for the school board first, and then you could run for elected up. We need bright, sharp, experienced minds on our school board.
Right.
That's not a beginning point. That should be a point where some people say, I would like to spend the rest of my life on a school board if I could, educating and benefiting, because education is the key to our success.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff.
So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
So in 1999, when I bought my home in Dallas suburb of Cedar Hill, basically there were only 20 other homes in the area. So I'm literally watching a city expand. And so I was having a conversation with a couple writers at Black Enterprise, and I said, I really think y'all ought to do a piece on how, with $25,000, we could literally elect a majority of school board positions and control the budget. So we were having this conversation. They were like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, people talk about all the raises money for governor, for Congress, for U.S. Senator. I said, but if you actually go back and look at how many people vote in school board elections, I said, small numbers.
Right.
I said, if we sat here and said, okay, and this was like literally, this was 25, 30 years ago. I said, so look at these communities that are growing up around Atlanta. I said around these large urban cities where African Americans were moving out and buying homes in these areas. I said, well, guess what? Those are going to be school districts. They're going to have bond elections. Somebody got to build the schools. I said, so now you control who gets contracts. You're not controlling curriculum. So we start going through this whole deal. I said, and the investment literally can be 25, 30,000 to win all 5 seats.
Right.
And they would look at me like I was crazy. I said, yeah. I said, do you understand? I said, not only are you controlling education, you're not controlling economics.
Well, education is economics.
There you go.
Because education is money, and government is money. The worst decision that was handed down by the United States Supreme Court politically was United States
Citizen United.
Oh my
Said that
God.
corporations are people too.
And as a lawyer in law school, we all learned that a corporation is not a person.
No.
That's the first thing they taught us. Now all of a sudden, so okay, I can take $1 million and say, well, I'm going to run this campaign for you all. Now you all don't have to do a damn thing, but do what I tell you, because I'm going to provide the money. It's a horrible decision. And talking about Supreme Court overturning something, that is the one that needs to be overturned. More so because who is affected by that any more so than people at the bottom rung of the economic level?
Oh, now you literally have the dark money. You have, I mean, you don't know who gives. You don't know any of this.
And you won't know.
Right.
You can't know.
Yeah.
You can't even subpoena.
Right. It literally allows it
to know.
Yeah. So you don't. So all of a sudden, you see these groups that's prop up that are supporting various things, and you have no idea of the millions that are behind that. Well, one person could be funding it.
Exactly, and that happens. And unfortunately, I've always said this: rather than to continue to fight for a fair piece of the pie and the equal slice of the pie, I want my hand on the knife that cuts the pie.
Right.
And to that extent, who bakes the pie and who puts it in? And that's one of the things that got me involved in going into politics in the first instance. I'm tired of people making decisions for me
Right.
and mine. I want to be a part of that decision-making process. And luckily, it has paid off in terms of seeing the progress that many people in America have made, particularly people of color. One thing bothers me now that we seem to be losing that.
Right.
By saying that we've got to be more concerned with other people than those people who were here. We built America. Sweat and strain and everything else on the backs of slaves. Slave labor. And not just in the southern states. People don't understand how the North benefited and profited from slavery.
Oh, the insurance companies. I mean, the banks. We can get on a whole line.
Shipping lines.
Right.
We got it all.
Mm-hmm.
We need to teach the courses.
The thing, it's interesting when you were just saying that in terms of what focus should be, because I spent a lot of time. One, I love history. I spent a lot of time studying those black mayors from the late 60s and then going through the early 80s.
Yeah.
And studying, and I've said this numerous times. The person who I consider to be one of the greatest political leaders, period, on any level, Maynard Jackson.
Maynard's a good man, good friend, and he was dedicated. He understood what the real deal was. Dick Hatcher, like and Carl Stokes did a tremendous job. And
then you go Coleman Young in Detroit, and you go and people derive Marion Barry. I said, folks,
one of the smartest urban mayors that we've had in our country.
A chemistry major at Fisk.
Chemistry major, and I was a chemistry major. And my degree was in chemistry. His was in chemistry. And we used to talk about that quite frequently about saying, we're two frustrated chemists. We can't get our act together.
Right.
So we took it out on the people.
But the thing that was always, again, was amazing is that what they understood, because the last 5 years of King's life, he was really like economics. They understood how politics can transform Black economics. It wasn't just politics and housing. No. They understood you can't, if you don't grow Black businesses, then you're not going to be able to grow Black communities.
No. Because Black business is what? Money. And it gets back to what we were speaking about earlier. The economics of politics is money. And who controls that? Who determines that? And to the extent that even today, 2022, the issue is money. Every day that you're looking at on the news, what are they talking about?
Money.
Money. And they will never stop talking
There's only
about it.
one department shares along with the White House.
That's right.
Treasury.
Exactly. You better believe it.
Money.
And so it's very important for us to have input and to be aware, and it's likewise to demand what's right and to criticize what's wrong. And that's why it's so important for us to understand that putting all of our eggs in any single basket at any one given time is not beneficial to us. We've got to have the sophistication and the understanding that if you want my vote,
Right.
you don't tell me what you have done.
Right.
What are you going to do, and when are you going to do it, and how long must I wait?
That was a great scene in the movie, in the TV show The West Wing, where there was a Latino leader, and he was captured sitting courtside with a possible candidate against the Martin Sheen character, and they called him up. And they were like, what the hell is this? We did this, and he said that was the last election.
Right. Exactly.
What you gonna do now?
What are you gonna do?
And see, and I think that the issue, like where a lot of people, where I went at a lot of different people, they thought that I was, man, you tearing down Obama. I said, no. I said, I'm not tearing down Obama. I said, he was the first Black president, but he was also the 44th. I said, many of us treated him and got locked in the first. We ignored the 44th. So therefore, we did not make demands on the 44th like we did the previous 43. I said, I don't care if you're a Black governor, Black mayor, Black school superintendent. I don't care who you are. Bottom line is here. There's a return on investment putting you in, not just happy you're there.
And unfortunately, too much of that is going on today in terms of increased numbers. And that's something that Martin King said that I liked a great deal. Increased numbers in and of themselves don't mean too much, because in a column, each column ultimately with increased numbers will end up with 0. And so what is the carryover that we're interested in? He was a philosopher, but he was a smart man.
See, that is, so when you think about that, we talk about not putting eggs in one basket. The thing for me is, because I hear this a lot, well, you got to give me this before I vote. And I keep reminding, well, first of all, somebody can't give you something if they're not in office. Right. I said, now, you can extract a demand. You can have them sign like the no tax pledge or whatever. You can do that. I said, but once they're in, you can't go away. You got to stay in the game to not make sure they do what they said they were going to do. And I think that's where, and I forget, after Obama's election, I remember Wanda Sykes, I was on her show, and she said, I did my part. I said, no, Wanda, that's the end of one process. This is the beginning of another. I said, you got to show up. So I said, you got to show up and say, remember when you campaigned at our church or our community center? We here.
Right.
I said, but if we don't show up, I said, and we go, well, they gonna do it. I said, but trust me, everybody else showing up. Everyone else is bringing their agenda and they're pressing them. And I think too often that's what a lot of African Americans are not doing. We're not showing up after the election.
Well,
putting that pressure on.
Well, let's get back to the thing that we've known for years in terms of certain votes are taken for granted. And people still do that. They take certain votes for granted. By that I mean, black people are traditionally Democratic today. There's nothing wrong with that. However, are you getting what you want for that investment
right
at that level? And so for people to say, I'm voting Republican, they shouldn't feel like they're misfits. They're voting principle if they feel that way.
But if they're voting principle.
Exactly.
Right.
If they're voting principle. And I've always believed in not reaching across the aisle, but I've always believed in reaching towards where the people are represented for the interests that I want represented too. When I was governor, people said that certain things are not going to happen, they couldn't happen, and well, what do you know about this, that, and the other? When I inherited the office of governorship, I thought we were in pretty good shape because we'd been told that.
Right.
Came to find out we were $2.2 billion in the hole. I was dead broke. Didn't have a dime.
Everybody made to sit there and taint Skip when he was like, say dog, tell him I ain't got it. he said, I ain't got it.
But tell you what, I knew what to do. I didn't raise taxes a dime for 4 years when I was a governor. And Virginia was voted the best managed state in the nation 2 years in succession. Not a single general tax increase.
Mm-hmm.
Established what I call the reserve fund, because I said the first monies that we're going to collect, we're going to put in a reserve fund so that Virginia will never go broke. Every governor since my election has gone into that reserve fund. I had no reserve fund to go to. I created it. You're absolutely right.
Don't wait till November 8th. We can vote today, y'all. Early vote started this week.
We're on Savannah State University's campus. We will be dorm storming today, giving out treats for everyone. We hope to see everyone at the polls when it comes to November.
If you believe we got power, let them know. Make some noise. Put a fist up. I need to see a fist in the air because we got power. Come on, you put it up. Go get your shirt. We're out here in the streets of Savannah, Georgia. James, do not forget to go vote. I got you. If we vote the right people in, we can make a change. We can get these resources in our community.
I am a woman, and it is important that we have the say-so of what we want to do with our bodies.
We're concentrating on entrepreneurism, providing young people with resources and training that they need in order to change their trajectories. We want Black down. Democracy is on the ballot. Voting rights is on the ballot. Voting suppression is on the ballot. I am most passionate about those three combined because they all impact each other.
Savannah is my home. I care about my community, and I care about representation in my community.
Our voices are still going to be heard no matter what kind of obstacles try to come up against us to stop us from voting. We're still going to be standing our ground.
I see the effort that's being made to keep our communities from voting. So that makes me realize it's even more important, because if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be fighting to make sure we could vote.
This doesn't stop this year. This is a forever movement.
We're going to exert our power as a people, walk in our rightful place. We're going to change our communities, fight for our communities, and build our communities.
10 in here?
10, and you don't come out until you die.
And you eat him, you eat him 10 minutes.
Oh my God.
So what?
So before you became governor, you were lieutenant governor.
Yes.
But what set up lieutenant governor? Because I people come up to me all the time. I want to run for Congress, and I'm like,
well, I was in the Senate.
Right, but I walked into I'm like, okay, but have you? I said, so you just want to just jump into Congress? I'm like, have you done anything else?
I ran for the Senate in 1969 because I was just upset with the fact that we didn't have a single black senator.
Now, what were you doing at the time?
Richmond.
No. What were you doing at the time?
Oh, I had a law practice.
Got it.
A great law practice. And I didn't want to run for politics, smiling and begging people to vote and asking for money and shaking hands. My arrogance was such that I practiced it in the courtroom so much. But I couldn't stay on the sideline.
So there were no blacks in the state Senate? Virginia?
Not a single black in the state Senate. There was only one black person in the House of Delegates, and that was Dr. Ferguson Reed.
In a state with a whole bunch of black people.
Right. So he was the first one. 2 years afterwards, Robinson and I joined. Robinson in the Senate House, and I in the Senate. And so I stayed there, and I said, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to run for lieutenant governor because I want to be governor. But I knew I had to run for lieutenant governor first.
Right.
People didn't know who I was. Virginia has the smallest number of black voters of any of the southern states. And so I had to go into each of these states and each of these counties and each of these cities and promote myself. And I didn't take a phalanx of people. I took 60 days and stayed straight on the road. I wouldn't stay in hotels. I would only stay in the homes of the people that I had met on the road. They said, that fool shouldn't be going out there, going down to Southwest Virginia, where Tennessee and West Virginia and all those places hang up and meet. Might not see him no more. I never had the first person in Virginia to refuse to shake my hand, to refuse to hear me, to offer me any offenses at all.
But what was it? I mean, we're talking Virginia.
Yes.
What was it?
It was me believing in them, and they believed in me.
Now, you obviously came up against people who were like, I'm not trying to see no black man in power. How did you diffuse that?
By going to the people. The leaders were saying that, but not the people. And this is why young people today need to know the people. Know your neighbor. Know the people that you are engaged with. Know the people that you want to represent. You want to represent them? Do you know them? Do you know what you hear from them? They can tell you far more of the needs than the leaders can. And once they are supporting you, nothing can defeat you. Once they show that I am with him, and I would hear the media coming out following me on this trip. And I knew I got all the media coming because they wanted to be there to record the incident.
Right.
When he got kicked out or locked out. I would hear people saying, yeah, well, no, and talk to the media. No, I know I never had a chance to do that. I never voted for a black person before. Why? I never had a chance. And that's what I heard, that I never had a chance. So people didn't look upon me as black or Negro or colored. They looked upon me as different. And I liked that. Now, color was thrown into it, of course, but different to the extent that I chose to spend time with them. not the party bigwigs. After that, I encouraged a lot of young people to become involved, and many of them came into work into my campaign, working into my administration, that I'm so proud of seeing that. And I still today encourage young people to become involved in government. You don't necessarily have to run for
That's
office,
right.
but be in a position to demand what's right.
It's like I tell folks, everybody don't have to be in the pulpit to be in ministry.
No. And if you got a message, and as many people would say, I'd rather see your sermon than hear it. I mean, than see what you do,
right?
Than hear you tell me what you do.
Absolutely.
So no, I've been very fortunate.
So you talked about, again, being governor. So I got to talk about when you ran for president. So it's 1992. Right. I worked for the Austin American Statesman.
Yes.
And so I write a column about that. But what I remember is that our dear friend Reverend Jackson was not on board. He was critical. He was critical of you. He felt you were too conservative.
Yeah.
That wasn't the moment. And I wrote a column blasting him for that, because what I said was, I said, well, first of all, he got elected in Virginia. I said, so we can't somehow say that message won't resonate across the country when he won. And I really thought that move by Reverend Jackson hurt your campaign.
It didn't help it. And the thing, though, was that what hurt my campaign more than anything else is that the people of Virginia didn't want me to run for president. See, the Virginia governor is a one term, 4 years. And the people in Virginia said, we want you to spend your time here.
Now, you were elected governor in what year?
1989, but it was actually 1990.
So you're only governor 2 years.
Yeah.
You're 2 years into your gubernatorial.
Right.
You got 2 years left.
Right.
Now, in your mind, you're thinking, look, 2 years, I'm gone.
Right. But in their mind, the loudest applause I ever got for any speech I made to the General Assembly in Virginia was when I said to them, I will no longer be seeking the office of the presidency of the United States. The place erupted with applause. I never had that kind of applause before. They didn't want me to do it. Looking back on it, they were right. Because sure, I had set in pattern a lot of things to take place in Virginia, but I hadn't completed them. And
your focus would have been off.
Oh, it would have been off, because if I'm going to take the last 2 years and run for the presidency, was I making strides? Yes. Bill Clinton was glad I got out, and he's pretty much said so. Clinton offered me, when he finally made presidency, he said I had said I might even take a position as plenipotentiary ambassador to Africa, the continent, and pick the states and nations that I wanted to spend more time with. He said, fine, if you want to do it, you got it. They have benefited from my not having, the state has benefited from my not being running for governor, for president. I look back on it, but I learned a lot when I was running for the presidency. At that time, you had limits as to how much you can contribute.
Yeah, you had to accept. I mean, everyone's publicly financed campaigns.
Oh yeah, and so Jesse and I are friends, and we understand each other. And as I said to Jesse on occasions, that he has done so much to bring about an awareness of what voter registration means and what people getting elected means. And I would say, Jesse runs for the offices, I run to get elected. he didn't think like that, but we're good friends. And we've got
but the reason I brought that up, because the reality is, and I spend a lot of time walking people through this, you have to look at, if you're black, where you are running.
Oh yeah.
What your district looks like, your state looks like. So a Congressman Sanford Bishop is in a far more conservative district than a Congresswoman Maxine Waters.
Right.
So then the idea that they're going to, because both are two black members of Congress, no, you literally have to say, if I want to win, I have to run a certain way, reach the electorate in a certain way in order to get to that point, as opposed to this notion that I can run one way across the board. This is what I keep trying to explain to people about Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others. I say, hey, her running in her district is totally different than someone else. And so there is no single strategy. And I think the problem with the Democratic Party problem is that the tent is so large, you literally have conservative Dems, moderate Dems, progressive Dems, liberal Dems. It's a what? Republicans, you right, hard right.
Don't wait till November 8th. We can vote today, y'all. Early vote started this week.
We're on Savannah State University's campus. We will be dorm storming today, giving out treats for everyone. We hope to see everyone at the polls when it comes to November.
If you believe we got power, let them know. Make some noise. Put a fist up. I need to see a fist in the air because we got power. Come on, you put it up. Go get your shirt. We're out here in the streets of Savannah, Georgia. James, do not forget to go vote. I got you. If we vote the right people in, we can make a change. We can get these resources in our community.
I am a woman, and it is important that we have the say-so of what we want to do with our bodies.
We're concentrating on entrepreneurism, providing young people with resources and training that they need in order to change their trajectories. We want black down.
Democracy is on the ballot. Voting rights is on the ballot. Voting suppression is on the ballot. I am most passionate about those three combined because they all impact each other.
Savannah is my home. I care about my community, and I care about representation in my community.
Our voices are still going to be heard no matter what kind of obstacles try to come up against us to stop us from voting. We're still going to be standing our ground.
See the effort that's being made to keep our communities from voting. So that makes me realize it's even more important, because if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be fighting to make sure we couldn't vote.
This doesn't stop this year. This is a forever movement.
We're going to exert our power as a people, walk in our rightful place. We're going to change our communities, fight for our communities, and build our communities.
Don't wait till November 8th. We can vote today, y'all. Early vote started this week.
We're on Savannah State University's campus. We will be dorm storming today, giving out treats for everyone. We hope to see everyone at the polls when it comes to November.
If you believe we got power, let them know. Make some noise. Put a fist up. I need to see a fist in the air because we got power. Come on, you put it up. Go get your shirt. We're out here in the streets of Savannah, Georgia. James, do not forget to go vote. I got you. If we vote the right people in, we can make a change. We can get these resources in our community.
I am a woman, and it is important that we have the say-so of what we want to do with our bodies.
We're concentrating on entrepreneurism, providing young people with resources and training that they need in order to change their trajectories. We want black down.
Democracy is on the ballot. Voting rights is on the ballot. Voting suppression is on the ballot. I am most passionate about those three combined because they all impact each other.
Savannah is my home. I care about my community, and I care about representation in my community.
Our voices are still going to be heard no matter what kind of obstacles try to come up against us to stop us from voting. We're still going to be standing our ground.
I see the effort that's being made to keep our communities from voting. So that makes me realize it's even more important, because if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be fighting to make sure we could vote.
This doesn't stop this year. This is a forever movement.
We're going to exert our power as a people, walk in our rightful place. We're going to change our communities, fight for our communities, and build our communities.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
The thing that I would like to see, and it can happen, it hasn't happened, is that you coalesce around the issues. For instance, let's assume we're all Democrats. Or what is your position on education? Yeah. What do you like to see relative to education? Or what are the problems you have with education? Let's get to those issues. Not a study.
Right.
We got studies every time you turn around. The question is, can you isolate the issues? Particularly, look at not K through 12, look at the HBCUs. 1971, Judge Pratt, U.S. District Court in the District of Columbia, decided that the 5 states that were brought before them for adjudication hadn't conformed to the Civil Rights Act. 1971.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia was one of them. North Carolina, I think Louisiana, and Tennessee, and I've forgotten the other, maybe South Carolina. As of today, the Rand decision has never been implemented. As of 2022, that case is out there. And I brought this to the attention of people in Virginia. Bobby Scott, my good friend, the congressman, who is the chairman of the Committee on Education and Labor. He and I have discussed it and saying, why haven't the people in Virginia made certain that that decision has been upheld and money has been appropriated? Well, you know, the pretext they use is, they have used for years. Well, you got to give the money, the state money, to the state schools, and that the black schools, they are, they're private. Virginia Union is private. Private? How's it private? Because they weren't supported by the state. But for Virginia Union, I never would have had an education at higher education level. So the thing that I'm trying to bring to your attention is, and the people in your audience, there are laws on the books that have still not been followed and fulfilled. The Rand decision in 1971 is one of them, and that's why historical black colleges and universities have been shunted. And when people say, we can't give money because the Constitution of Virginia will not allow that to go to the private schools. That's not true. So much so that the Attorney General of Virginia this year issued an opinion saying it is not true. Now, where are the people who are supposedly
right? And see, so I had Alvin Chambliss on the show. He was the one who led the Mississippi case.
Yes.
Won millions upon millions.
Yeah.
The Maryland case just finally got settled that proved the $477 million.
Right.
And I remember when I went down, they had some issues in North Carolina with HBCUs, and I went down for a rally, and I met with the black state legislators, and I looked at them and I said, why are y'all not looking at, first of all, why are y'all not talking to Chambliss and then talking to the lawyers who sued Maryland, and then say, wait a minute, why can't that happen in North Carolina? Now, the state schools in Maryland could not sue the state, but the folk externally did.
Yeah.
And the school was like, y'all keep doing what y'all do. Now, it took 13 years. So I said to the state legislature, I said, what are y'all doing? They never heard of Alvin Chambliss. In the meeting, I was like, this is his number.
But getting back, go ahead.
But the point I was trying to explain to them is, you're sitting here talking about what we need. I said, utilize the existing case law. I said, and go after them. But you can't be afraid.
You can't be, and you got to call a spade a spade. In Maryland, as you recall, the governor said he wasn't going to sign it.
Right.
After the Black Caucus
drew a red line. He said 100 million is the highest I'll go.
He drew a red line, and they countered by saying, I tell you what, then nothing will pass.
Right.
We will boycott everything else. And that meant filibuster.
Yes.
That meant using every available tool to accomplish that. And those are the things that you need to do.
So you're gonna get a kick out of this. So I got an award from the Minority Supply Development Council.
Oh, good.
So the Maryland Lieutenant Governor got one that night too. Mm-hmm. And I was before him. And I went up there and I said, now with all this firepower in the room, every single one of y'all should be giving Governor Larry Hogan and his administration hell to sign that. I said to sign that damn agreement to give the money. Right. And so I went on. So we came. So we go backstage, and so I'm in the green room. We're taking pictures and stuff. And then he gets his award. And he comes back and he goes, "Yeah, I heard your boss. You don't know what you're talking about." I said, "Who you talking to?" I said, "Don't know who talking about." So we started going back and forth. He was like, I'll sit down with you. I said, pick a day when you want to come on the show.
Okay.
Pick a day. Man.
He never came on.
No, oh, hell no, he didn't come on.
Because he couldn't. And
hell no, he didn't come on.
Hogan saw the handwriting and he ultimately said, oh no, I'll sign it. But this
I was talking to the Black Caucus too. And I actually spoke to them 3 different times.
Well,
as
they
a group.
supported it.
And no, they did. But I was literally telling them, I said, shut it down. Because they kept talking about we're the largest Black caucus out of any in the country. I said, y'all control the state.
Well,
tell your Democrats ain't nothing moving.
You need to speak to the Black Caucus of Virginia.
Well, I'll be more than happy. Look, I've spoken to the Black caucuses all around. Matter of fact, Don Scott pledged to the same chapter I did. So I will text Don, and now that he's the House leader,
I know,
and I'll tell Don.
Well, Don knows exactly what we are talking about.
But here's my deal. I'll be happy to, because see, the issue for me, it was sort of like when I went to Ohio, Black Caucus brought me in, and it was interesting because the Ohio caucus was opposed to charter schools. I'm down with it. I'm down with every form of education. Kasich was there, and he supports charter schools. Yeah. So when I hit that, he stood up. He was applauding, and the Black Caucus, I looked at him, and I said, Governor Kasich, glad to see you stand up. Well, let me be real clear about voter suppression.
You got it.
Wait a minute. That applause stopped. He sat right back down. Then they stood up. I said, this is a perfect example. I said, I'm against voter suppression from fourth charters. I said, I'm for Black people. I said, but y'all can't sit here and play this game and screw the people in the middle.
Well, what you and I are talking about now, though we're saying this place or that place or this state or the other state, it's all in one cup. The question is equality of education. The equality of funding education has never taken place in America. And so to the extent that it's Virginia today or North Carolina or South Carolina,
Doesn't matter.
Maryland, it doesn't matter. And to the extent that it's addressed by those people who say they represent us, how can you represent us when you're not fighting for those things, whether it causes you to lose an election or not? It's a matter of principle. You'll still be the person that believes in the people, and I have always known this to be true, and I hear it every day, that people are always ahead of the legislators.
Right.
They are always ahead of the government leaders because they know. And one of the greatest rewards I get is to hear from them on a regular basis. And you hear the same thing. We know what you do, we know what you've done, and we want you never to stop doing it. I'm 91 years old.
Right.
And people are asking me, are you going to run again? Are you crazy? Yes, I'm going to run for cover.
So you've always gotten, this is interesting, you've always gotten, well, I won't use the phrase, you always gotten in trouble with your party. But your party has not liked the level of honesty. You were very vocal with what happened to Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax.
Yes.
You were very vocal about Terry McAuliffe totally ignoring all the black leadership. We saw what happened there. When you look at what's happening, I remember I was traveling I was at the LA airport, and you called. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning, LA time, and you called me. I was like, man, what time are you up in Virginia? I said, I'm catching a 6 a.m. flight in LA.
You did.
And we were talking about, in terms of where this party is. If you were sitting, if Biden called you to the White House, or he came through here, and if he said, Governor, what should I be doing? What do I need to know? What would you tell him?
First of all, to understand what the mission of the office is, and that is to be representative of the people. And to the extent, you don't need studies, you don't need consultants, you need to know what the issues are that are affecting the American people. Education will always be at the top of any of the issues that you confront because that's ahead of everything else. Crime impacts education, particularly of young people. Housing affects education as it relates to poor people. Health affects education. So to the extent that those things are brought together to make education still the principal thing that makes our nation great or greater, concentrate on that. And to the extent that your advisors and the people who are there don't understand that, then that's your job. And you got to communicate that. I haven't heard it.
See, right? See that key word, communicate. We hear whether you're the president, your governor, whatever, that you have the bully pulpit.
Right.
The reality is, if you are the mayor of a city,
right,
you can command local media, frankly, at any time.
Yes.
If you're the governor, you can command the media of the state. If you're the president.
Yes.
What boggles my mind is he gives a primetime address about guns, and I haven't heard Jack since.
Right.
Nothing. And my thinking is going, all right, where's the rally in the state somewhere on the issue? Where is it? How are you constantly keeping it top of mind?
Are you aware of the numbers of dropouts? Are you aware of the numbers of people that have been affected because of COVID relative to education? I'm not talking about who's wearing a mask and who's not wearing a mask. What is the quality of education? Who's going to these dropouts? Or are you aware of the effect of crime as it relates to education? Are you familiar with community policing? When police are in the community on a regular basis and the people don't look upon them as enemies, but look upon them as partners. in terms of bringing about a better community. Education will always be the bottom line. And it's not going to change. You can't get a job.
Should the party be, I think about, the word just popped in my head, it's just be more radical. Now, when I say be more radical, what I'm really talking about is your opposition is playing by no rules. It's not like we're not talking about American politics in the 70s and 80s and to some degree early 90s where, okay, well, we might have some philosophical differences, but then we might still wives might get together and children get together and we can still reason. No, that's gone. And he says, you know, the Republican Party, your grandfather's Republican Party, that's not today. I'm like, bro, that's gone. It is not coming back. And so I think part of this thing also is that for me, I see a Democratic Party that is literally operating and playing by a set of political rules that no longer exist, and you're up against another party that does not care about anything but power.
So your question is, should it be more radical?
In terms of understanding that what you're facing is a threat that you you really haven't seen before, and they will do whatever to maintain power. And you have to counter that somehow.
I would counter it with the reality of saying, if it's not working, you get rid of it. If what Democrats are doing is not working, you don't do it. You do what's necessary. Radical. Let's try it this way. If you got a gun and I got a gun, and you're doing what you're doing and I'm trying to stop you, what Democrats are doing is pointing the gun at the Democrats, at the Republicans, and say, if you don't do this, then we're going to shoot you.
Right.
You don't tell somebody you're going to shoot them. You shoot them.
Right. And
that's not radical.
And in fact, they're not even pointing the gun.
Exactly.
They're sitting there going, now don't let me pull my gun out. And they pointing the gun at you. And you're like, now, in fact, I don't even have it on me. It's in the car.
Right. You don't talk that. As you know, I was in Korea, front line, spent 9 months on the front line, 13 months over there. I'm fighting people that had done nothing to me, sent there to fight for the freedoms of Koreans when I wasn't free.
Right.
So when I came back, my mind was radicalized.
There you go.
I was at a point now, don't tell me about I got to wait. I'm not going to wait for a damn thing.
And there was a lot of black soldiers in World War II,
Yes.
World War I, II, Korea, Vietnam. They said, wait a minute, I'm fighting for free, but I ain't free here.
Understand this.
Right.
I can't get a job. I got to go I can't go to the University of Richmond. I got to go to Howard.
The GI Bill is helping the white troops, but not me.
Not me. And so the question is, are we as representatives of the people using the powers that we have to demand what's right and to criticize what's wrong? Why isn't the money going where it should be going?
Right.
Why do we have to have consultants for this, specialists for that, and a department of this? Why can't we put it right to the ground? Are you producing? No, you're out.
Right.
Gone. Why is it that we've got to have study after study after study? They got to go to court after time. The money is being wasted, and you know whose money it is? It's our money.
Right.
It's taxpayers' dollars that are being spent, and to the extent that we are not demanding it, to the extent that we should, you vote the rascals out, but who do you vote in? And so you get, well, the lesser of two evils is what we have been living with for too long in this nation.
Right.
And I'm not willing to live with any of the evils.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
It's interesting when you talked about when you were talking about how do you move people, frankly, out of the way. And I've had folks tell me, well, I'm not going to vote. And I go, okay, so have you made an attempt to even find out who's running? No, but I don't know who they are. I said, okay, all right. So I'm just trying to understand here. I said, if you want change, how are you going to get change if you then are not trying to find the folk who actually want to run?
Right.
I said, you simply cannot get change by saying, I'm going to be completely out of this and I don't care who. I said, no, you literally have to be engaged at some level. And so when you mention the issues, I keep going back to my parents in the Civic Club. They literally started by saying, you know what, we really need to do neighborhood cleanup. And so, okay, which city department does heavy trash pickup? And then the next month they did that. And then they say, you know what, we got these crack houses that are abandoned and overgrown lots. Who cuts the grass? And then how long will it take to get the house petition to get it torn down? And okay, how long is that process? And it was interesting just watching that. And that wasn't party. That was literally, we want trash picked up, we want houses torn down, we want grass cut. But they then went and found out, okay, what agency, who is it? Oh, we need some police patrols. Okay, who the commander for our neighborhood? But they were regular, ordinary people who were engaged and achieved the community changing because they actually focused on the issues and not
the people, right?
Of the people.
Well, the problem you have there, let's get real. One, I shouldn't have said that. We got a mayor here in the city of Richmond just spent $500,000 to have the city come up with a new logo, Richmond Real. $500,000 spent for that. Oh, you think I'm crazy? All right, Richmond Real? You had to spend money to do that? Okay, so now you got it. What does that do to address the issues that you speak of? Oh, well, so a few months ago you were tearing down the statues. So the statues are down. What's in place? You still have dropouts. You still have crime through 3 police chiefs in the city of Richmond in 1 week.
Dang.
Yes. So there's failure at the leadership post. And so the people, they're looking around by saying, well, my God, if these guys are messing it up that badly, I'll just as well run. No, you need to study. You need to make certain you get your hands on a nickel or a dime and make that $1 or $2 to understand that you can build for your future by demanding what's right, criticizing what's wrong, but do the basics first. Make certain that you have a place to live and a place to sleep. Demand it. The trash thing that you speak of, who is in charge of that?
Right.
Well, why isn't it being done? Out. That's where you make the changes.
Right.
Because government is at the local level, the most important form of government.
Are you, we hear the conversations taking place now, the January 6th committee, and many are saying we should be afraid of this threat to democracy, that there is a fundamental threat to democracy with what happened on January 6th, what's happening with these laws being changed by Republican legislatures. Do you believe that threat exists? That 2024, how they're running these secretaries of state who don't believe that Biden won, they literally are looking at changing laws to ensure they win.
The threat is always there. The question is, has it grown exponentially to the extent that we should be alarmed or concerned? But there again, you get back to local government. Who are you having to represent you at these levels? The federal government can oversee and look over the protections that you're speaking of, but there's no federal militia that's going to be out there. We're speaking about gun control. If you did that, what are you going to get? I put in as governor of Virginia with the 1 gun a month bill. They said I couldn't get it done, and I got it done. And I know it cut down on the proliferation of drugs. And I knew that cutting down on the proliferation of drugs cuts down on the proliferation of guns and crime. There is concern, and there should be concern, there should be great concern as to the status of government, where we are today. But it's not going to be resolved by single issues. It's got to be more collective. More people need to be sitting down, like you and I now. People need to be sitting down with their elected officials, not just on election days. Oh, we got to get excited now because we got turnovers, and it could happen. If the Senate or the House and the Congress turns over, it's not going to make too much difference to a lot of people unless we address these issues.
Right. I've always spent time sitting at the feet of elders in journalism, African Americans, talking to them, learning from them, listening to the stories, asking them questions. Are today's Black politicians doing that with you? Do they call? Do they visit? Do they come by?
Some of them do, yes. But to be blunt, let's assume that you lived in some other place, you'd have to look to say, well, you know, Doug Wilder may have done this, that, and the other at some point or not. But I understand isn't he 90 or 91 years old? Yeah, well, he's probably just living a nice, quiet life. Someone's leading him around, carrying him someplace. And they're very deferential. But to the extent, do they want to know a little bit about what my experiences have been? To a degree, groups do, as you know, and individuals, to the extent that they feel they can approach, do. But it's not what I would do if I were really interested in moving ahead, because I've always wanted to know a little bit more about what has happened before. You speak about Black journalism. As you know, that is what caused so many people to be brought together. the Pittsburgh Courier, the
Chicago Defender,
the Norfolk Journal and Guide. These are the newspapers. That's all we had.
Right.
And Ebony finally came on board, and Earl Gray's with this Black Enterprise. They came on. Much of that is gone, to the extent that there is no jet, there is no place where people can go,
right,
collectively or collatively, to get some of the simple answers. There are groups that I speak to that they're very, very deferential, and they're very grateful for when we take the time. I speak to a lot of the schools here. When I speak to, I don't teach the classes here now. I lecture in the other professors' classes. And they are very, very supportive, very, very, and there are people on a regular basis that do come by and call.
See, the reason I ask the question is because, to me, if I'm running for office, or if I'm in office, to me there is value in seeking out someone who's already been there to, how did you get that passed?
Yeah.
How did you do it? What were the negotiations like? What was the process? And because again, if I'm trying to figure it out, I want to glean from. I still look at coaches. I don't care how old you are. If Vince Lombardi is alive, somebody is sitting here saying, you take a Bill Belichick or Bill Parcells, you take a Eddie Robinson, you take these coaching minds, they are still tapping into that. And that, I'm just curious,
that comes more or less from the groups. That comes more or less from the organizations and the people are involved with those groups and organizations. And this book, here that I have, the people that have read the book and call and ask about it, write about it, there's a great number of them do.
So we're in the sprinter coming here. So I asked my two HBCU interns,
right,
do you know who we're going to talk to? And I say your name, and they say no. And I said, now, how your ass went to Norfolk State? I did. I'm like, how you? I said, now, y'all went to, I said, first elected governor. I said, first black governor since PBS Pinchback.
Who served 45 days.
And then I go, who's PBS Pinchback? They look at me like I'm crazy. Now I'm sitting here like, so then I'm like, okay, well, do y'all know the second black elected governor? Get stairs. I said, look, I'm gonna throw both y'all out this sprinter. I said, and one of you slow down doing it. I said, you gotta know these historical things because you don't know who you're gonna cross.
But it's not their fault. You see, because that has not been promulgated. And that has been, the Rodian scholar, like that. You remember that? Guy came by and saw the Rodian scholar and said, oh, the thinker, the name of the,
right.
If I could strike that pose, I too could think. And so it's that simple. If I could just get in office, then I can be governor. It isn't that easy.
No.
And Val Patrick, my good friend, and I went up for his inaugural. I was shocked at the few people who came of color.
Right.
From around the nation. They were not there.
Right.
My son and I went.
As if
and
it
my
was,
chief of police.
As if it was like, oh, okay.
Right. None since that time. And so I joke him a lot. I said, well, Virginia's always been ahead of Massachusetts. But he and I are good friends. We get along well. The unfortunate thing is, even if they get to a position to get elected, do you know as I said, the tricks of the trade?
Right.
And it's going to be hard to learn them in office to benefit you.
Right.
You learn a lot while you're there, but if you hadn't had some exposure prior to getting there, you're going to be in a world of trouble.
November 8th. We can vote today, y'all. Early vote started this week.
We're on Savannah State University's campus. We'll be dorm storming today, giving out treats for everyone. We hope to see everyone at the polls when it comes to November.
If you believe we got power, let them know. Make some noise. Put a fist up. I need to see a fist in the air because we got power. Come on, you put it up. Go get your shirt. We're out here in the streets of Savannah, Georgia. James, do not forget to go vote. I got you. If we vote the right people in, we can make a change. We can get these resources in our community.
I am a woman, and it is important that we have the say-so of what we want to do with our bodies.
We're concentrating on entrepreneurism, providing young people with resources and training that they need in order to change their trajectories. We want Black down.
Democracy is on the ballot. Voting rights is on the ballot. Voting suppression is on the ballot. I am most passionate about those three combined because they all impact each other.
Savannah is my home. I care about my community, and I care about representation in my community.
Our voices are still going to be heard no matter what kind of obstacles try to come up against us to stop us from voting. We're still going to be standing our ground.
I see the effort that's being made to keep our communities from voting. So that makes me realize it's even more important, because if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be fighting to make sure we couldn't vote.
This doesn't stop this year. This is a forever movement.
We're going to exert our power as a people, walk in our rightful place. We're going to change our communities, fight for our communities, and build our communities.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Smartest politician you have ever learned from?
Well, I would say the guy that I spent a lot of time with in my formative years when I was in the state senate was Bill Robinson. He was the head of the political science department at Norfolk State. He was elected in the House. And we would share so much together that we really came to think alike. And he would say to the press when people would ask him about something, he would say, well, Senator Wilder and I have decided we're going to do this, that, and the other. We might not even have talked, but we were in such sync.
There you go.
And I would say, well, Dr. Robinson and I are going to do such and such a thing. And so I think Bill Robinson, who was brilliant, he headed the political science department at Norfolk State, died shortly, early in his career, but I would rank him at the top.
There are a lot of civil rights luminaries that you've come across over the years. Who would you say had the most profound impact on you or on our community?
Boy, you got a lot of good guys out there in terms of being friends with, associates with. That's a tall order, Roland, to say which was at the top.
Well, do 2 or 3. I'll make it easy on you.
Well, Vernon Jordan and I got along very well. We were always pretty close. I used to get along well with Dick Hatcher. I liked him a lot over at Gary, Indiana. He never got a lot of coverage like I think he should have had. And I would say Marion Barry and I did a lot of collaborating and talking on things. Barry was smart as he could be. And he had his difficulties, as many of us do. There was a guy, Richard Newhouse, in Chicago. He formed the Black State Legislative Group. I never heard a word from him in years. I mean, he's passed now. But to the extent that he would put that up. But there was a favorite of mine from Virginia State University. His name was Calvin Miller. And I would put him at the top, very, very top. He was head of the political science department at Virginia State. He then became the Dean of Humanities. And he invited me over to teach a course in constitutional law when I was in the state Senate. And I'd go over from here to there, Petersburg, 30 miles. But afterwards, I would spend time at his home with his family, and we would have dinner. And he was perhaps the most influential of my contemporaries that I've known.
2 questions left. You earlier said that without Virginia Union, there's no you.
No, and I didn't want to go because I didn't have any money.
So why'd you go?
My mother. You're going to go. My father would tell us all, I cannot send any of you to college.
How many kids?
There were 10 original, or 10, but 8 surviving. Yeah, I had 1 brother and 6 sisters.
Daddy said, I can't send you.
I can't do it.
Mama said,
I will see you through high school.
Right.
My mother says, you are going to go to college. The tuition was $150 a year. And if you got a C average, it was 100. And my mother would say, look, take this $10 up there. 5, 10, and I'd stand in line. You know, got to see the registrar. Virginia Union did more for me because I'm 16 years old. So, you know, guys coming back from World War II, I'm in the same classes with them.
Right.
I'm learning from them, learning a lot of things from them. But
we ain't gonna get into that.
Virginia Union
right.
would take my $5 and $10 and allowed me the opportunities to get my degree, and then I could go to Howard. So it's everything. And I have my collection over there now, my personal collection. And so when people don't see the value of our HBCUs, it just cuts me like a knife.
50, 100, 150 years from now, someone's going to be in the library, or they're going to be on Kindle. They're going to see this book. They're going to see your name come across, just like me, you've seen PBS Pinchback. What would you want someone 100 years from now to know about Douglas Wilder?
Very simply, he did the best he could with what he had and never stopped believing that he could arrive to the high possibility of the individual.
And that he made a mistake pledging Omega.
You're good. You're good. And I tell you what, we'll take you all in any time.
Oh, you know, look, you know, we don't mind the other youth group. Governor, I appreciate it.
Always with you, Roland. Love you. Take care of yourself.
Love you as well. Appreciate it.
hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.